said I always imagined myself with someone who was rich. It broke his weak heart. Okay, let me set the stage here because honestly, I don't even know why I'm sitting here typing this out for random strangers on Reddit. Maybe it's because I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. Or maybe deep down it's because I know I'm the villain in this story and I'm desperate for, I don't know, validation, forgiveness. Do you think I even have a chance to redeem myself? Do you think I should even talk to him again? Would that even make sense at this point? I've been torturing myself with those questions for weeks now, and I feel like I'm stuck in this endless loop of regret. Maybe writing it all out and hearing from strangers will help me figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do next. So here goes. I was with Ethan for 7 years. 7 long years that were both the happiest and most confusing of my life. We met in my 3rd year of college, and from the moment I met him, I knew he was different. Ethan was sweet, the kind of sweet that is rare these days. He had this quiet, calming presence that made you believe love could fix anything. And for a long time, I thought it could. I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world to have someone who treated me like I was the sun, the moon, and every other celestial thing in the universe. He was the guy who brought me coffee on late study nights, who always remembered my favorite snacks, and who held me when life felt overwhelming. But love isn't enough sometimes, is it? Ethan wasn't rich, not even close. He came from a humble background and had no illusions about that. He was ambitious in his own way, though, always talking about his plans to start his own company someday. He and a couple of his friends were brainstorming ideas for a startup, and for the first few years of our relationship, I thought that was incredible. I mean, Ethan was smart, genius-level smart, the kind of smart that made you think he could accomplish anything he put his mind to. So, yeah, when we first started dating, I believed in his dream. I genuinely thought if anyone could pull something like that off, it would be him. But then real life started to hit me in the face. We graduated, and that cozy bubble we'd been living in, where dreams felt endless and anything seemed possible, popped. I got a career of my own, and to be fair, I was doing okay. I was climbing the corporate ladder, landing promotions, and making connections with people who seemed to have their shit together. Or at least, it looked like they did. And I'm not gonna lie, being around all those polished, successful people started to mess with my head. I started to see how different Ethan and I were, or at least that's how it felt. While I was putting on heels and heading to networking events, Ethan was still scraping by. Okay, maybe scraping by isn't the right term. He wasn't struggling, not really. He wasn't broke either. Ethan was damn good at what he did, coding. He landed steady gigs freelancing, building apps, fixing websites, consulting for small startups. In fact, most of the time he made more money than I did. But the thing is, freelancing didn't look as good on paper. It didn't come with a fancy office or a recognizable title. It wasn't the kind of job people immediately respected when you brought it up in conversation. And that mattered to me more than I'd like to admit. I couldn't help but imagine just how much more successful Ethan could have been if he'd done what everyone else was doing. If he'd just gotten a corporate job right out of college, poured all of his energy into climbing the ladder. I mean, Ethan was smart, not just good grades smart. He was the kind of person who could probably run circles around his managers if he ever got into that world. And that's where the doubt started creeping in. At first, I was proud of him. I mean, how many people have the guts to chase their dreams like that? To carve their own path instead of following the cookie-cutter blueprint? I admired that about him, but over time, my admiration started to wear thin. The longer he spent planning and dreaming, the more I started to doubt whether any of it was going to pay off. I never said it out loud, at least not back then, but a voice in my head kept whispering that maybe his dreams were just unrealistic. I told myself I was just being practical, that it was my job to keep both of us grounded. But if I'm being brutally honest, the truth is that I was embarrassed. I hated the way people would look at me when I told them what Ethan did for a living. You know the look, the polite smile, the slightly raised eyebrows, the way their voice gets just a little higher when they say, "Oh, that's nice." It wasn't outright judgment, but it might as well have been. And the comments? Oh, the comments. Oh, he's still working on that? Isn't it time he's moved on to something more stable? So, what's his backup plan if the startup thing doesn't work out? Just freelancing forever? That's brave, I guess. I just don't know if I could handle that kind of uncertainty. I would nod and smile through those conversations, but inside, I was seething. Not at them, well, okay, maybe a little at them, but mostly at Ethan. He didn't deserve it, and I see that now. But back then, I resented the fact that he was putting me in a position where I felt like I had to defend him all the time. I hated feeling like I had to justify his choices, like I had to explain away his lack of a real career to people who just wouldn't get it. And over time, those feelings started to fester. At some point, I stopped seeing Ethan as the guy who made me believe love could conquer anything. Instead, I started seeing him as the guy who was holding me back. It wasn't fair to him, I know that now. But back then, it felt so real and justified. Every time I walked into another networking event, surrounded by power couples who looked like they had their lives perfectly figured out, I felt like I was playing pretend. Like I wasn't really one of them because my partner wasn't climbing some corporate ladder like theirs. I started convincing myself that I deserved more, that I deserved someone who could match the kind of life I was chasing, someone rich, someone who wouldn't make me feel small or self-conscious every time I introduced him to someone. And the more I believed that, the more resentful I became. Looking back, I hate myself for it. Ethan wasn't doing anything wrong. If anything, he was doing everything right. He was chasing his dreams, building a life he could be proud of. But in my mind, I twisted it into something selfish. I started seeing his choices as a burden on me, even though they weren't. I thought I was justified in feeling the way I did, but the truth is, I wasn't. I was shallow. I was selfish. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. I thought I was just being practical. I thought I was protecting myself from a future full of struggle and uncertainty. I let the resentments, insecurities, and fears fester until they finally toppled out. Ethan proposed, the kind of proposal I had always dreamed about, with the exact kind of ring I had admired for years. It was supposed to be perfect, like something out of a movie. But when he got down on one knee, when he started talking about how much he loved me, about how I was his light and his anchor and all those beautiful, heartfelt things, I froze. I just stood there staring at him as he held out the ring, and I just lost it. And that's when I said it. I always imagined myself with someone who was rich. I just can't. It just slipped out, like a goddamn knife falling out of my mouth, aiming straight for his heart. Ethan froze. His face fell, and for a second it was like he didn't even understand the words I had just said, like his brain couldn't process that I had said them. And then his expression crumpled. I don't think I'll ever forget the way he looked at me in that moment. It was like I had reached out and physically slapped him, like I had ripped his heart right out of his chest. He stayed kneeling for a moment longer, the ring still in his hand, as if he thought maybe I would take it back, that I would laugh and say it was a joke or a mistake or anything other than the truth. But I didn't. Slowly he got up. He looked at me, asked me what I meant, and instead of backpedaling like any decent human being would, I doubled down. I don't know why. I think part of me was too proud, too stubborn to admit I was wrong. I told him I'd been thinking a lot lately, that his dream of a startup was just that, a dream, that it wasn't realistic, that we were never going to have the kind of life I wanted if he kept chasing it. I told him I wanted more. I wanted luxury, stability, someone who was already successful, who had already made it to the top. It was like watching the light go out of someone's eyes. Ethan didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't even look angry. He just nodded, like he'd heard everything he needed to hear. He slipped the ring back into his pocket and asked if I was ready to go home. The ride home was silent. He didn't say a word, and neither did I. He just kept his eyes on the road. When we got home, he went straight to bed. I didn't follow him. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen, feeling like the worst person in the world. But I didn't go to him. I told myself I just needed time to think, that we both did. I thought we could talk it out in the morning, that maybe I could explain myself better when I wasn't so raw. The next day, he barely looked at me. He locked himself in his study and didn't come out except to grab food or coffee. When I tried to talk to him, he gave me short, clipped answers. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight with me. He just shut down. and this went on for a week. I told myself that he was just processing, that we both needed space to figure things out, and eventually things would go back to normal. But they didn't. For a couple more days, it felt like I was physically watching the distance between us grow wider. Each passing moment just seemed to stretch the space between us further, and no matter how much I tried to pretend it wasn't happening, I knew. Deep down, I knew that this wasn't something he could just snap out of. I had broken something between us, something fragile and irreplaceable, and I was pretty sure there was no way I could ever fix it. A few days later, Ethan ended it. He didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even sound angry. He just said that there was no point in us staying together when I had already rejected his proposal. He said he couldn't be with someone who didn't believe in him, in what he was trying to build. He told me he didn't blame me for wanting more out of life. He understood that I wanted stability, luxury, a future that felt safe. But he couldn't spend his life feeling like he wasn't enough, like he was some consolation prize or a stepping stone. I begged him to stay. I told him I didn't mean what I said, that it had just slipped out in the heat of the moment. I promised him I believed in him, that he could propose again some other time, and I'd say yes. I'd make it up to him. But he was done. I watched him pack his things, and I could barely breathe. I thought he might change his mind, that he might look at me one last time and decide we were worth fighting for. But he didn't. He walked out, and that was it. At first I thought I'd be fine. I told myself this was for the best, that maybe now I'd finally find someone who checked all the boxes Ethan couldn't, someone rich, someone successful, someone who fit the picture of the life I thought I wanted. But of course, as weeks turned into months, I realized I didn't care about any of that. I missed Ethan. I missed the way he'd look at me like I was the only person in the world. I missed the way he'd randomly bring me my favorite coffee just because. I missed how he used to talk about his dreams with this sparkle in his eyes that made you believe anything was possible. And I missed us. I thought about that night all the time. I still do. I replay it over and over in my head, wishing I could take back the words that fell out of my mouth like poison, wishing I had just let him love me the way he always had, without letting my own insecurities and doubts get in the way. A couple of years passed, 4 to be exact, and if there's one thing I've learned in that time, it's that karma is a bitch. I never found that rich, successful guy I thought I wanted. In fact, I found it hard to commit to anyone at all. Every relationship I tried to start felt hollow, like no one could measure up to Ethan. It wasn't that I didn't meet successful people. Oh, I met plenty of them. But none of them had Ethan's kindness, his passion, his way of making you feel like you were the most important thing in his life. It turns out success doesn't mean much when you don't love the person you're with. And then, because the universe loves irony more than I love making bad decisions, about a year and some months after Ethan and I broke up, a year and some months, he hit the jackpot. I kid you not. That was when Ethan finally started rolling in the big bucks. Turns out, Ethan and his friends launched their startup not long after we broke up, and about 2 years later, they sold it for an obscene amount of money, like life-changing, never have to work another day if I don't want to money. Of course, I heard about it. You don't just miss something like that when it's all over social media and mutual friends are casually dropping it into conversations like it's no big deal. To say I was shocked is an understatement. I mean, good for him, right? But also, wow. And here's the kicker, because apparently the universe wasn't done playing with me. They recently launched another startup, and from the looks of it, it's already shaping up to be just as successful as the first one. Why am I bringing all this up? Well, because I'm about to see Ethan again. I haven't seen him since the breakup, not once. For a while, I didn't even try to reach out. I was too embarrassed, too ashamed, and, if I'm being brutally honest, still a little caught up in my I was justified delusion. But then, a few months after we ended things, Ethan moved away. He left the city completely, changed his number, disappeared off my radar, and probably blocked me on all his socials. And I didn't try too hard to find him because I got updates from mutual friends, and honestly, what would I even say? Hey, I was randomly thinking about you. Or worse, hey, I've been obsessively thinking about you for months and I'm kind of dying to know how you're doing. Nope, not gonna happen. But now Now I'm about to be face to face with him again. A mutual friend from college is getting married, and not only am I on the bridal train, but Ethan's RSVP'd, and that means I'm going to see him at the wedding. It's been years, but I've never really gotten over Ethan. Not completely. I've tried to move on, I've dated, I've focused on my career, I've tried to convince myself I did the right thing, but none of it has worked. I miss him. I miss us. And now I'm wondering if this wedding could be my chance to finally say the things I never said before. I want to approach him. I want to tell him I regret everything, that I was wrong, and that I still care about him. Maybe even ask if we could have a fresh start. But here's the problem. Everyone in my life thinks it's a terrible idea. My best friend, she says it's desperate. She thinks I need to let it go and focus on my future instead of clinging to the past. My brother, he says it's selfish, that I hurt Ethan enough already, and I need to leave him alone. I get where they're coming from. I really do. I know I broke Ethan's heart, and I know there's a very real chance he doesn't want anything to do with me. But part of me can't help but wonder, what if there's still a chance? What if I don't approach him and regret it for the rest of my life? Would it be stupid of me to try? Should I just stay out of his way and leave the past in the past? Or is it worth the risk to tell him how I feel, even if it means opening up old wounds? Update. Hello, Reddit. First off, wow. I did not expect my post to go viral like this. I didn't even want it to. Honestly, I thought I was just putting my thoughts out there to get some feedback from strangers, you know? Like, I thought it would be one of those things where you get a few replies, maybe a couple of people give some advice, and then it fades away. But no, my post blew up way more than I ever anticipated. And of course, my best friend found it. She wasn't super surprised though, because I had mentioned I was going to post something on Reddit just to get some random thoughts on my situation. But, yeah, I still wasn't expecting this level of attention. I really hope none of Ethan's friends or mutual acquaintances see it, because that would be so embarrassing. Imagine if Ethan himself somehow stumbled upon it. That'd be beyond mortifying. So, as for an update, I don't really have much to share yet. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to write another update, but here we are. The feedback I got on here was, eye-opening. You all pretty much agreed with my sister and my brother. I mean, a lot of you said it was a terrible idea. Some of you even straight up said that reaching out to Ethan would make me seem like a gold digger. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, that hit me hard. But honestly, I get it, I really do. You guys were harsh, but fair. I can't even be mad about it because deep down, I know you're right. I messed up. I made a huge mistake. I literally threw away one of the best things that ever came into my life. And now, looking back, I regret it more than I can put into words. I will forever miss Ethan, and I'll forever regret how I handled things. I don't think I'll update again unless something big happens or I just feel like it. But the wedding's coming up in a few weeks, so who knows? If I feel like there's anything worth sharing, or if I end up seeing Ethan, I might update again. Anyway, thanks to everyone who commented and gave me their honest opinions. You guys really opened my eyes to just how messed up my thinking was. Update. Hello, Reddit. I didn't think I was going to update again, but here I am, and let's be real. Nothing is more exciting than airing your most embarrassing moments out into the world for complete strangers to read, right? So, yeah, here we are. The wedding happened, and wow, honestly, it was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. But of course, what stood out the most was seeing Ethan, and get this, he came with a date. Now, when my friend mentioned that Ethan was invited, she didn't bother to tell me he could bring a +1. I mean, she didn't have to tell me, and I get that now. I have no right to be upset with her for not filling me in on that detail. It's not like she was obligated to keep me in the loop. I was allowed to bring a +1, but I didn't. Part of me didn't even think about it, to be honest. I thought I was just allowed because I was part of the bridal party, and I didn't really consider the fact that other people might be bringing dates too. In fact, I even wanted to bring my brother, but he was busy, so that didn't happen either. So I guess you could say I was pretty blindsided when I saw Ethan with someone else. And I won't lie, it really hurt. We saw each other, and I'm pretty sure he noticed me, but we didn't talk. I couldn't bring myself to say anything to him, especially not with his date right there. I didn't want to make a fool of myself in front of her. But then things took a turn. There was an open bar and, well, red flag. I should have known better. I ended up drinking way too much, like way more than I should have. And guess what? In my drunk, emotional state, I went straight up to Ethan, crying, screaming at him for bringing a date. I was telling him how much I missed him, trying to hug him. It was a mess. Honestly, I don't even know how I managed to get myself to that point, but I did. And apparently, I even vomited. Yep, I vomited. That's how much of a disaster I turned into. I'm as mortified as you're probably imagining right now. It was horrific. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding hangover, and my friend filled me in on everything I had done. They even showed me a video. A video. I can't even explain how embarrassed I felt seeing that. It was just so humiliating, and I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. I was ashamed, horrified. I couldn't believe that was me. But of course, in my infinite wisdom, I thought it would be a great idea to get Ethan's number through my friend and text him to apologize. I honestly don't know what I was thinking, but I did it. I texted him, told him I was sorry, that I was just drunk, and I hoped he'd understand. To my surprise, he actually responded. He accepted the apology and said it was fine, that he understood. And honestly, I thought that was a green light to keep going. So I did. I told him I missed him. I said it would be nice if we could go out for dinner sometime, maybe catch up. But yeah, surprise, he wasn't interested. He said he had a girlfriend, the same one he brought to the wedding, obviously, and that he wasn't looking to reconnect with me. And then, of course, he blocked me. And that's it. That's the end of the story. I'm so embarrassed I can't even look at myself in the mirror without cringing. I ruined everything. I loved him. I still love him. And I will never forgive myself for how things ended between us. I've thought about it constantly. I regret it so much. But seeing him again at the wedding, seeing how well he's doing, how happy and successful he looks, it's just amplified all the regret and pain. It's like seeing him thriving just makes me feel like I'm stuck. Like I'm watching my life fall apart while he's living the one I always wanted. Now I can't stop crying some nights. Nothing helps. Nothing takes away the ache. And honestly, I hate myself for it. I deserve this. I deserve the heartbreak. I did this to myself, and I have to live with it. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll probably never hear from him again, and honestly, I don't deserve to. I just wanted to share this because I have no one else to talk to about it.